You look like a statue.
I think it's pretty open. Plug it in. That's all over there as well.
Tomorrow, very important. Especially important for third day. Workout stuff.
All right, thank you everybody for coming on back. We're about ready to get started with our second session of talks. Hope that you're all really excited. How are you all doing tonight? Are people tweeting? Are you like online and here at the same time having fun, wiki-citing in all the ways? Wiki excited. All right, so I think we've given people some time to get back. So keep us on track. I'm going to get started with the next set of talks. I'm very, very excited to share these with you. It will be about some of the tools that people are building that can either interface with Wikidata or with other Wikisite data. So enjoy. First talk on Scolia with Finn.
Thank you. And yes, I'm from the Technical University of Denmark, Finn Olsen here. And this is with Dan and Mitchen. We've been working with Scolia for 2 years or something now. Also, there's a third person who's also very involved in the Scolia development, Acorn Wielhagen, a Dutch university researcher. So I will tell you about Scolia, that is running from the Wikimedia Foundation infrastructure, the ToolForge server, which is why it has this particular URL. And I will try to give a live demo of that here. So I clicked on that one here and we end up on the Scolia homepage. And the first thing you meet is this one at the very top here, sort of a warning about the limitations of what data we have in Wikidata. So we are displaying scholarly information, and certainly if a researcher is going to Wikidata or to Scholia, you'll find that not every single paper is listed. Single paper is listed there, and not every citation there. So we'll put in the warning there. Further down, we have some example profiles, and apparently we have Denny there, one of the participants, I believe, here. And also further down here, we have some statistics, live statistics of what we have in Wikidata. For example, the number of citations is currently on almost 170 million. And further down here, the number of DOIs are 15 million. And for example, down here we have ORCID. The number of ORCID links is 336,000. Let me go up here. This one here is searching the Wikidata API, and you can search for any item that is in Wikidata. Let me try to search for something called Wikisite, and then it lists the Wikidata items there. And we can go to, for example, the Wikisite conference. And now Scholia detects what kind of item this Wikisite conference is, and it chooses to show it as an event series. Actually, there are what called 23 aspects in Scholia that can display various informations in various ways. For example, the basics one we have is author, organization, venues, work, and so on. You can see them at the very top of this one here. This one here is displaying information about event series, so a series that have individual events that are also recorded in Wikidata. So we have the list up here, and for example, the timeline further down here. These here are constructed live via queries to the Wikidata query service. This table here is constructed by some JavaScript that Scholia is handling, and formatted in a particular way. But the timeline here is directly coming from the Wikidata query service, and there's a timeline chart in that, so you can do that. And further on here is a map of the three Wikisite conferences done, also automatically generated via the Wikidata query service. Further down here we have topic scores for the conference. If you go to the Wikidata item for this conference here, you'll see that there are some topics defined, but there are certainly not these 200, more than 200 entries defined for this conference. So how do we find the topic of this conference? We do that by establishing a Spark query that goes to the Wikidata query service that looks on the individual conferences of this conference here and the individual people associated with the conference and the individual works associated with people for the individual conferences. And these works has topics associated with them, and we assemble them all and count them, and that's why we can say that Wikisite is apparently about Wikidata, Wikipedia, Wikisite, Wikidata, ontology, citation analysis, and so on, ordered according to that. So let's go into one particular event here, Wikisite 2018. Here we have this one here, a list of people participating. So this is entered in Wikidata. You could go, for example, here. This is also live constructed and a co-author plot of some of the people participating here. A timeline and a topic also established in the same way as for the event series. Recent publications and so on. Down here we have related events, and these are related according to time and locations. We don't have any topic in there. So what we're doing here is we know that someone had typed in that this particular event is happening in Berkeley, and we know the geo coordinate for that. This particular site, and we can query for nearby events in this area, and we also know the time of this event, and we can query for other events in this particular time here. And so we see that there are, for example, the International Semantic Web Conferences that was held in Monterey. It has a good location score, but a bad time score. So imagine that you're going transatlantic visiting the Wikisite conference and you want to see whether there's other conferences that you might have want to participate in. So these ones here are actually not showing a high score, so that doesn't seem to be a good event to sort of have together with this one here. Switch 18 has a good time score, but is an entirely different location. Let me go to here, someone called Dario Taramborelli. We have the profile for this guy here, and there's a loads of things here. Hopefully you can scroll down and see a lot of other plots here. Menu statistics. So I'll go in and look for a particular paper here. ALT. Metrics collection. This is a work that Dario Taramborelli has written together with two others. He's a third author. And this is the work aspect of that particular Wikidata item. So it tells us about that. It's about altmetrics, Twitter, citation analysis, social media. There's a timeline about the first citations. Down here we have related works. And how do we establish related works? This is done by examining the local citation graph of this particular word. So we go one step and two step away, both backward and forward in the citation graph, assemble all the corpus of these papers here and count the number of citations. This is how we rank them here. So the first one, the most related one from this co-citation analysis is called Do Altmetrics Work? Twitter and 10 other social media web services. So it doesn't, this kind of co-citation analysis hasn't been told about that it's about a particular topic of altmetrics, but it identifies sort of a reasonably good related work. We can go further down we can display the different citations, and further down here we have the citation graph. The particular one we are looking at the moment is this Jason Preem. He's the first author, and the one that was mostly related was this Mike Thurl article that's there. You see a lot of inbound citation to this work, so that's why it's running up high in the relatedness score. Yes? 2 minutes? Okay, yeah. So let me go over to this particular one here, showing text to topics. So, yeah, I'll go over to the web page of the Wikisite conference here. Here's some text. I want to show you some of the things that we can also do in Scholia. I'm copying and pasting this particular one here. And going back, this particular site that was under the tools menu, and hopefully I can copy and paste that text in here. So this is part of the text that I don't know if Dario will written, and I press this in the button here. Hopefully, yeah. So what it's done now there is running through a regular expression extraction of keywords. So it identifies, try to match from the words in this particular text that I copy and paste, corresponding Wikidata items as kind of topics. And I use these topics, identify topics in Sparkle query to identify related works or whatever we can find here. So it identified 40 different Wikidata items and find works related to that. Here some of, for example, travel, academic, conference, community, Wikidata is some of the words or items that are extracted. List of works. Via these topics, we can now identify words that are related to this piece of text here. And this, the first one is, what do Wikidata and Wikipedia have in common? And analysis of the use of external references. Yeah. So this was sort of an example of what is possible in Wikidata there. I'll just finish up with the, I can find my original slides there. Yeah. Just an example of the use case. Yeah, I put these slides up here. The use case, we have seen sort of an increasing usage of Scolia here. And that was all, yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, Ben. Thank you. I feel I'm always taking screenshots of you presenting Scolia. I'm such a big fan of it. I just want to point out one piece of information is incorrect about my own record.
Okay.
So it turns out that I'm not the author of what I'm presenting, I'm the editor.
Okay.
And we don't have yet a good way of representing editors of volumes or series using the author or author string properties. So just something to keep in mind from data modelers.
So this is a collected work, or
Yeah, the collection, actually, no, I take it back. We are the actual authors of the editorial, and so that is correct, but that reminded me that we don't have a way of expressing editors in Wikidata, as far as I know.
there's an editor property.
Yeah.
P98.
You just created this morning, right?
No, it has been there a long time.
I think that.
While we're waiting for other questions, you can connect to the DBC Conf Wi-Fi network using the password Brower, all caps, 555. DBC Conf Brower 555. Sorry, we didn't announce that earlier. It's on Telegram.
I just have a question about this tool. It's still under development.
Yeah, well, we continuously develop it. Yeah.
Does it work very well with other languages?
Yeah. So the interface is currently in English. We were thinking of making it sort of more international by having it in various languages. Yeah. So far we haven't come to that, but it would be somewhat of a much work to do that. But we're certainly thinking of that.
Just on that directly, so the bubble graphs that you see here, they would actually show up in the language of your browser. So even though the interface of Scolia right now is only English, but if you're using a non-English version or language in your browser, then the bubble graphs would show that.
This is SJ, thanks, Ben. Other than completing the citation graph in Wikidata, what's the primary thing that you would need before we can all stop using Scopus and just use Scolia?
Yeah. So I think that there's an issue of full text search, and I don't see how we can get around that. So yeah. So when you're using my primary academic search tool is Google Scholar, and there you can search for full text in all articles, and I have a difficulty seeing how we can replicate that. And of course, if it's open source, we can put it on Wikisource and perhaps indexing it that way. But closed source, we need to somehow negotiate with the companies doing that, and that would be very difficult, I think.
Clyde Ellis. I work as a digital initiatives metadata librarian at IUPUI. Yes, since we have here, we have an international audience, I thought it would be helpful to show what that actually is the highlighted area you see on the map. I refuse to say the color of the area because that would indicate something else without getting political. Yeah, that's where we are in the center of Indiana. So our library supports open access and open knowledge projects as it's something that is actually it shows on my job description, so that's something that we are very committed to do. And what I'm going to be talking about is specifically about a project that we've been undertaking to provide a presence in Wikidata for our faculty and also the scholarship that they produce. So I thought it would be interesting to share with you very quickly what the motivation was for this work. So the first thing was reading Finn's, I think, oh, there it is. Well, you just saw him. So was reading Finn's blog post where he actually responds to an overview of a scholarly profile system and argued that Wikidata should have been included on that list. And since Wikidata has the functionality in place to be able to facilitate scholarly profile service or tool, so that to me that was intriguing. And then the other thing was the actual development of Scholia. So the time was right to start exploring and experimenting with Wikidata and Scholia to do this work. So I got my colleague Jerry Odell and we got involved in this project, and we started by identifying first the school that we were going to work on. And so for this particular project, we chose the School of Philanthropy or the IU Lilly Family School of Philanthropy, which is the actual name. And so we chose this particular school because it's unique to IUPUI, and also it's a relatively small school, so we thought the project was actually manageable. And so the idea was to create entries for the core faculty of the school, meaning everyone from assistant to full professor, which currently does 21. And their co-authors, regardless of their institutional affiliation and their scholarship they produce, as well as some of the works cited in their publications. So we gather bibliographical information and biographical information, as well as identifiers, so that we could add to the Wikidata entries. So adding identifiers, we thought it was really important to do because you are not actually just describing or creating an entry for a faculty, but you are also pointing out to external data sources. So you are providing more information there. So we searched in all these websites, and once we had all the information, then we started creating entries for the faculty, which we did manually. And then for the scholarship, using the SourceMD and Quick Statements tool to populate the entries for the articles, the journal articles. So this is just a screenshot of one of the profiles that we created. And on the right-hand side, you can see the identifiers that we added, pointing to those external sources. And I have a screenshot of the same author's co-author graph in Scholia, which you saw Finn demoing that before. And another screenshot showing the citation graph. So something that we were interested in doing, we are still interested in doing, is linking works as well as creating the entries for the faculty, because that's what would actually make this more worthwhile. And so this pilot project actually helped us evaluate whether or not, evaluate whether we are able to undertake a project like this. This was a small project, but as a result, we're now thinking of offering this, offering the creation of a scholarly profile as a library service for the different schools on campus. And the initial count was 21 entries for the faculty, and one that was already in Wikidata because Finn created it when we were communicating about this project. I think he did it in a way of showing me what could be possible. And then we created over 60 entries for co-authors to again make those connections. 117 entries for publications, and 40, a little bit over 40 entries for works cited in 3 publications that we selected. We were not sure how much work this was going to be, so we just chose these 3 publications and went through the list of references and created entries for those references, and then made the connections. And as well as 7 entries for works that cited those 3 publications. So clearly there's a lot more work that needs to be done here to have a complete data set just for that school. But I think it was a good exercise for us to see what is possible. And yeah. So for the second part, we're calling this phase 1, 2, and 2. So the second phase of this project, we have chosen to create profiles for UPUI women faculty for obvious reasons in terms of not having well represented, not being well represented in the different wiki projects, as we know. And so our efforts are specifically towards creating entries for the women faculty across disciplines. So we are not focusing on a specific school anymore. The other thing is also connecting faculty to existing articles using existing articles using the P50 property. Another big piece that we're working on is on getting consent from the faculty to use existing pictures under an open license. So that's in the works. And adding new articles and connecting to works using the sites property, which was proposed in the first WikiCite meeting. It was proposed in the first WikiCite conference in 2016. And so I think the reason why we are doing it in this order is because we're finding a lot of the publications in Wikidata for specific areas. And I think that Daniel is to thank for this. He's running a bot or invoking quick statements, and he's doing things, and he's making that available. So we are focusing on creating the entries so that we can make the connections. And this is just, I only have 2 minutes, so I will go quickly. These are most of the properties that we are using for the most part for the faculty. And this is just a count of the different schools and the number of entries that we have created with 151 so far. And even though we are in the early stages with this project, I thought it would be helpful to share a summary of what we have accomplished. So and you can see it on the screen. I think, again, it's a small project, but it shows that if we all do a little bit, we can contribute to this larger set of data. So why are we doing this? Well, again, we are supportive of open data. So open data aligns with our library's mission and strategic plans. It contributes to free, accessible linked data knowledge base that anyone can use, modify, distribute, And it enables external tools like Scholia to use and display the data in ways that allows a more meaningful interaction and exploration of the scholarship. So that's the cue for thank you. Oh, and I forgot to say I forgot to say that if you have ideas on how to actually extract the works from the reference list so that we can do that more efficiently, please come talk to me.
So I would like to ask about the workload of entering these kind of data here. So I have been setting up also for my research checks and people associated with that and works, and it's quite a lot of work. I don't know, have you any idea of tools, or how did you do this efficiently, or how can we do this efficiently?
I think that yes, it is a lot of work. I don't think we anticipated it was going to be so much work. I mean, this is something that we started, the pilot we started working on in last summer, actually. And so at that point, we were, again, experimenting and testing with Wikidata, and doing this manually is too much. When we have hosted Wikidata events at the library to get staff members to actually come and do, create entries so that we can generate the profile. So they've been they have experienced what we have to go through to do this, and they have told us it is a lot of work, especially not when creating the entry for the faculty, but when adding publications. And at that point, we were showing them how to do it manually, because I do think that before you jump into using any tools, you need to understand what you're actually doing. And yes, I think for us now, we are trying to, we're using quick statements and trying to essentially populate kind of like a template for the faculty, like the most, the values that are common for all of them, so that we can get that into Wikidata and then start enhancing. At least with that, we get the key number and we can start linking to publications. So I don't know if I have a good answer for that, but using, again, the tools that are there, quick statements and source, and I don't know if there's anything else that we can use. Again, I'm open to hear more. But yeah.
All right, so what was, how did the faculty react to all this work that you did? Did they get excited about it? Did they ignore you? Was there any participation from the faculty?
I wish I could say something about anything that you said. I don't know whether or not they are excited, and I don't know whether or not we've been ignored, because we attended with the School of Philanthropy. We reached out to the administration and we let them know that we were doing this and that we were happy to go share with them what we've done. Not only to show what we are doing, because nobody's asking us to do it, right? We're doing it because we think it's the right thing to do. But we didn't get any feedback, we didn't get anything from them. So the next step is we're trying to get, which is why we're doing this, all the schools, doing a little bit of every school, so we can get back to all the associate, not the associate dean, to the deans or acting deans, and let them know that we are doing this, and then ask for consent to actually use the picture. So we thought that we should actually have like a more complete data set, if we could ever get there, to reach out to them. So, because otherwise it would be like, well, how come I'm not there, and how come this work is not represented there? So that's what we are. So I don't think they're aware that we're doing this. Yeah.
It's always really hard to look into the audience that you've been part of the whole time, so we're both a little nervous. So yeah, this talk is WikiCite and the Biodiversity Heritage Library. I'm Katie Micah. I am at the University of Colorado now, but last year I attended WikiCite as a member of the Biodiversity Heritage Library, and I'm here to talk about what we tried to accomplish with some of it. So essentially, connecting content in different ways between literature and archives and other pieces of biodiversity informatics has been important to the Biodiversity Heritage Library for a lot of years. And so we thought that perhaps Wikidata and WikiCite would be a good way to link into this linked data network that that BHL is not yet a part of. Nothing is linked or open quite yet. So quickly, BHL is the largest biodiversity open access digital library. It is a worldwide consortium of botanic gardens, natural history museums, and research libraries that collectively digitize natural history literature and special collections items and make them freely available online. The digital library provides open access to hundreds of thousands of volumes, and they contain information that is very critical to studying biodiversity. The BHL consortium works with the taxonomic community, publishers, bioinformaticians, and IT professionals to develop a lot of different tools and services to facilitate greater access, interoperability, and reuse of content and data, including offering data exports and big data dumps. There's an API that is publicly accessible. We index taxonomic names, which is a huge undertaking, and they are now incorporated in a full text search, which works very well, I'm happy to say. And there's integration with lots of different reference management tools. And so these services connect to the taxonomic literature to the scientific community in lots of increasingly meaningful ways. This is a graph by Rod Page, who many of you probably know. He was at WikiCite last year and is a pretty important player in the world of biodiversity informatics. And this is his simple graph of how the biodiversity knowledge graph might look like if we were able to incorporate everything as linked open data. I've added an archives and special collections icon because I think that's important for including extra information. I'm sure there's many, many more icons that you could put on this, but this is most closely related to BHL. So BHL is working to sort of include archives and special collections, publications and journals, people, taxon names, images, all sorts of things into this linked open data knowledge graph without actually having to invest all the way and get all of their metadata in a linked open data format. The Smithsonian, actually a founding member of BHL, is currently developing a pilot project to link the 292,000 type specimen from the National Museum of Natural History. Type specimen are the original specimen on which the description and name of a new species is based. And to link those with their type citations, the bibliographic reference to the original publication that they're described in, with also the persistent identifiers of the citation authors, the taxonomic literature in BHL, which has the full literature referring to those specimens, and then field books also, which document have field notes and records of different expeditions. Well, those are some good pieces that I forgot to bring up. But so going quickly, essentially what we tried to do is start to add items in BHL to Wikidata, and it turns out, as we've heard all this morning, is that library collections data is very complicated and very messy and never goes quite as planned. What we started doing was trying to disambiguate and reconcile things using the mix and match tool, which I hope a lot of you know. If you are sick of this talk already, please go to mix and match and start matching some of our stuff. But what I really wanted to communicate before I hand it over to Siobhan is that everything is, the items are very complicated. This one is for a title called Episodes of Insect Life. And you'll see that there is a Wikidata item for that, but if you dig at all, you will immediately find out that that is for a different edition, obviously. And so all of us sitting here in the room are going to sort of understand implicitly that
we need a new item for this. But would somebody just using mix and match that just wanted to contribute inherently understand that we need a new item? They might just match it, and that would be probably very problematic if it's connected to anything. And so with that, I will hand it over to Siobhan. She can talk about some of the linking stuff that she's working on. Oh, there's two, yeah.
Kia ora koutou katoa. I'm Siobhan Leachman. I'm a New Zealand Wikimedian. I'm also a volunteer for the BHL. Today, I basically want to take you through my workflow of adding citations and content about New Zealand endemic species to Wikipedia, Wikidata, and Wikicommons. I want to give you a practical example about how important it is to get biodiversity literature into Wikidata. When I started this work, I basically started it because I found a data set that I could deep dive into, as well as a reason for doing so. Manaaki Whenua Landcare Research is a New Zealand government-owned institution, and it has a set of moths that they released under an open licence, all their images. At around the same time, they started a citizen science project, getting schools to participate in and studying and generating data on these moths. And it seemed obvious to me that the children would look to Wikipedia to find information on these species. However, many of the 1,650 endemic moths to New Zealand lack a Wikipedia page. So I started creating and expanding articles. As I'd been already volunteering at BHL, I knew the importance of historic biodiversity literature. It's much easier to study and conserve a species if you know the name of it and you can distinguish it. The original scientific description is the start of this process. So if possible, I cited this in Wikipedia. I also attempted to find an image of each species, as a picture really is worth 1,000 words. However, this can be the hardest part of the process. For New Zealand endemic moths, yes, I've got this lovely data set, but even Manaaki Whenua doesn't have everything. So if I can't find a reusable photo, there might be an illustration in the public domain. Most of the ones I source are from the Biodiversity Heritage literature found in the Biodiversity Heritage Library. But for a lot of New Zealand endemic species, it's normal that there are no openly licensed photos or illustrations available. Now, I've gotten so frustrated at this that I've started contacting institutions directly, campaigning and persuading them to release their images more openly. If I have found an image, I upload it into Wikicommons. I'll create a category page, and where possible, I'll add the Wikidata info box to that. I'll then add the image to Wikipedia and add a link to the Wikicommons category. I'll also make sure that the taxon bar markup is included in the article. This pulls identifiers from the Wikidata species item into the Wikipedia article. The iNaturalist and the Global Biodiversity Information Framework, or GBIF, identifiers are two I particularly want to link in. iNaturalist is the citizen science website or app that enables anyone to collect species observations. It's also one of the best places to get images of New Zealand endemic species, but it's got an issue. Its default license is Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial, which means most of the time I can't actually reuse those images in Wikimedia Commons. I've been actually working with Dario to raise this issue with iNaturalist and to attempt to persuade them to change their default, but this is actually a work in progress. In the meantime, I've been reaching out to individual iNaturalist users. This can pay real dividends, as even if I just convince a few, sometimes these are the only images of these species available. After creating the Wikipedia article, I'll then move on to Wikidata. If needed, I'll create or expand the Wikidata item for the species, link in the new Wikipedia page, add statements and any missing external identifiers. If possible, I'll add the image to the item. I'll add the link to the Wikicommons category page I've created. I want all three wikis as interlinked as possible. While in Wikidata, I'll ensure that the endemic nature of the species list is listed. I'll add the author, the original scientific description, and the year the species was described. I'll add host species. And I'll cite references supporting those statements. It is at this point that I frequently realise I can't use the stated in property when citing references in Wikidata to support my assertions. More often than not, the scientific literature I want to refer to does not have a Wikidata item. So I have to create one. However, this is easier said than done. There are often times when I've fallen down a rabbit hole of not just creating an item for the article, but also the journal, the organisation that published the journal. I'll have to create items for the authors and the illustrators. It can take as long as producing the Wikipedia article itself. Now, I must admit I'm also reluctant to add book items to Wikidata because of their complexity. I've yet to get my head completely around the data model for books in Wikidata, and I would love a basic how-to document to guide me. Also, I'm selfish. If I'm doing all this work, I specifically want it to benefit me. I'd like to be able to automatically generate a citation in English Wikipedia while editing in Visual Editor that just by entering the Wikidata item number. By the way, this would encourage me to add more article and book items to Wikidata. So, to summarise, I've created an article which includes a reference to the original description. I've found at least one image and uploaded it to Wikicommons, created a category and linked it in Wikipedia and Wikidata. I've added an image to the Wikipedia article and the Wikidata item. I've created and expanded the species item in Wikidata, adding as many identifiers as I can find, along with the information such as author and year of description, the endemic nature, the hosts. I've added references supporting those statements. I've added items to scientific literature, authors and illustrators. My work here is almost done. I then returned to iNaturalist. Remember, one of my main motivations for doing all this is to help New Zealanders gather data on these species. Now, iNaturalist automatically ingests the Wikipedia articles into its site. iNaturalist also allows the curation of images on its species pages. So I can upload the species images into iNaturalist that I've previously added to Wikicommons. This means the citizen scientist has both the Wikicommons images and the Wikipedia article to help them identify their species. Once their species identification is confirmed by a second iNaturalist user, that observation data is ingested into GBIF. Remember, the GBIF external identifier is listed in Wikidata and is in turn included in the taxon bar in the Wikipedia article. So any confirmed observation data on a species in iNaturalist adds to the quality of the data linked to in Wikidata and Wikipedia. And if I've convinced the iNaturalist user to change their default, their image of their observation is also available for upload into Wikicommons. In this way, there's a virtuous cycle of reuse that's been created and a data enrichment process has begun. Now, in conclusion, I want to emphasise that the better the data held in Wikidata, and that includes bibliographic data, the more folk are not just able to reuse those data, but to add to them. Historic scientific literature plays a really important role in this information ecosystem. I'd like to encourage attendees to consider how we might hasten the incorporation of all biodiversity literature into Wikidata. Thank you.
Time for one or two questions.
Could you go back to the slide with the citation window, where it says Wikidata? Bring that in. Oh, sorry.
Keep going.
There, yeah, right.
Yeah.
You actually can do that. Sorry, it's my fault. I should have put it on the label. But yeah, if you add a QID into this field, it will.
You've just blown my mind.
Sorry.
I'm so happy. Really, truly. Okay,
Yeah.
great. That's okay. Cool. It made me a very happy woman.
Cool. So to try and give another useful thing, basically the problem you have of making items and then falling down this rabbit hole of, this item also needs a journal, and the journal needs a publisher, and there's a ton of authors and things.
Yep.
There's also a tool which maybe needs a little poke to keep it alive, but it's called Fatima. Which I wrote at the WikiCite 2016.
Okay.
And you can give that a PubMed ID or a PubMed Central ID. And we'd like to probably expand it to other things if we have time. And that will make all of them for you. And if they already
a lot of
exist.
the problems with the stuff I'm dealing with, is that it's so old that they don't necessarily have any other identifiers. So I'm talking about things that are original descriptions of species, which could be like in 1750s.
Yeah.
So they're long dead, and they often I can't find identifiers for them. I mean, if it was something described in 1975, I normally don't have a problem because they've got publish stuff with a DOI for later, and then I can link them in, and they're there already. It's the older stuff that I've got the issue with. Yeah.
Awesome. Hello. Great. Yeah. My name's Tom, and I'm here basically with two hats on. So my badge actually says I'm here with WMDE, where I'm a developer for Wikidata. But I'm also here kind of in a voluntary sort of thing as an Open Knowledge Maps team member. So here are my two hats for today. And this talk is like an entirely volunteer thing. Open Knowledge Maps is a not-for-profit organisation that is kind of dedicated to improving the visibility of scientific knowledge, and they want to do that for all sorts of scientists and researchers and students, but also for the rest of society. Basically the motivation for it is that if you want to find out something about a topic, you may be just starting to do some research on it, or write a thesis on it, or whatever. The first thing you do is maybe go to Google, and you type in a name, and you get an absolute ton of results in a big list from Google Scholar or wherever, and you don't really know which one to click on, you don't know where to start. And since you can't read all of them, you basically just go to some highly cited overview, and once you're there, you then read that, and you try and build a picture in your head of how everything is stuck together, and what topics are important, and what authors are important, and this can take ages and ages, and is essentially your first year of your PhD or something. So the idea that Open Knowledge Maps has is that we should kind of change how this works, and instead of having a search engine like Google, you should have a sort of more visual search engine. So what I'm going to try and do is do a live demo, because my heart rate's not low enough. Which means I have to find the cursor. There it is. Cool. So I guess I had Chrome at some point. Oh, that's the other Chrome. So if I hit escape, I guess I get help from the nice Mac man. Awesome. Yeah. So this is the one, and I'll maximize it again so everyone can see. Oh yeah. So basically, you might type in something like sugar, for example. This is like the one we have pre-built, and then you get this two-dimensional map that loads for you, which lets you kind of explore the different areas of this topic. So, for example, you might be interested in the effect of sugar on people, and what happens if you have high sugar in your diet. So then you would click on this, and it would zoom in, and you'd see that there are a couple of papers that are in this bubble. And then if you wanted to, you could click through and read the link or whatever it happens to be. If you speak Japanese, I guess. Yeah, that's my slides. And hopefully this goes forward. But we'll see. Oh, no. There. Cool. Guess if I hit present, it goes full screen again. Yeah. And basically this gives you a big advantage because instead of kind of having to build this mental map in your mind, you get a nice 2D map that you can just see. You can share that link with other people, they can see the same map as you, then you can go into different areas and quickly click through and read the paper itself or read the abstract. You probably saw it was in the bar on the right hand side. And obviously that's easy than try to keep it all in mind. And you can also kind of see the areas that you're not interested in as well. How it works, basically what you saw on the screen there was basically the equivalent of typing the word sugar into Base, which is this like search engine for papers. And Open Knowledge Maps in the back end downloaded a load of them, and then did some analysis and then built that pretty graph for you. Basically, the bubbles were made on the similarity of the text in the metadata, not in the full text, but yeah, that kind of is how we cluster it all together. And at the moment, yeah, these are the places where we're getting our data from. So Base is this really big search engine. There's PubMed, which everyone knows about, and also recently we did this thing with OpenAir, which is like the kind of a collection of all the EU-funded projects and the papers that came out of those projects and things, so you can browse by project or whatnot. And that's what you can see on the live site now if you went to openknowledgemaps.org. We'll go with it. Some work was done at the Wikimania 2018 wiki site meetup by, I think, Daniel Meachin, who's had a shout out in every talk so far. And a couple of the guys from Open Knowledge Maps. I unfortunately wasn't there, so quite a lot of this work is really the credit for it should go to them, but unfortunately they couldn't make it today. There's still not a very friendly user interface for it, but to give you a flavour of what it looks like, we can instead of using the search engines, we can build things from Wikidata, and I'll stab in the dark and see if I can find the right one. There we are. So here's one that was built from the Zika corpus that exists on Wikidata. And you can see that it's kind of similar and kind of worked. There's a few things that are missing. So for example, these PDF links at the moment, I don't think we're correctly using the properties, so they don't go anywhere. But the map itself is still built fine and kind of clustered correctly, and open access indication for papers, so you can be sure that you can read it if you don't have access or whatnot is working too. Oh, and if you want to have a go with this demo, there's kind of like a static demo rather than a live one. It's also linked in Etherpad. And how many of time? Awesome. Basically, that was built from a query that looks like this. Yeah, so this is even like a cutout load of it, so it's quite complicated, but in the end of the day, what we really did was just feed in the output of this query into the same engine that was used for all the other things. And these are the properties that we used principally. I think we also used the open access one there, but yeah, quite a limited set of properties. There's loads more we could totally use, and that would be a way forward in the future to maybe make it give us better bubbles or more interesting things. But I guess the key one there is the main subject one, which really helps you get the clustering because it's kind of annotated already rather than trying to guess it from whatever was in the metadata from the search engines. A kind of question, maybe people would be interested in having input on this here, is like where would you go next with it? So I think it would be nice to have a pretty UI. Like at the moment there is no UI, it's like a command line tool that then spits out that map. It would be nice to have a pretty UI where you could maybe paste a query in, but you probably also saw, even if you like had carefully handled that query, it was super complicated and not easy for a random person to write. So maybe it'd be nice if we could have like quick maps built from Wikisite Corpora. I don't quite know how this would be defined, but like if we had sort of easy pre-built sets of papers from Wikidata or recipes for making them that could make it super nice and easy to make maps quickly. And yeah, probably there's many more properties we could use to kind of improve the map and also improve the usability of it, give you better click-through links, suggest where you might find an open access source if there isn't one by default or that kind of thing. Yeah, Open Knowledge Maps is a charitable organisation, and it's a team that's fairly small, mostly volunteer developers with a couple of people who get paid for a few hours. Yeah, if you're interested in contributing, everything's on GitHub. The actual like maps and stuff are CC BY. The data in the backend is all CC 0. Yeah, it's open and nice and stuff. And yeah, here's this standard slide I think we were asked to provide. So I just thought I'd talk through what is how we're connected to Wikisite. Peter, who is the founder of Open Knowledge Maps, was at WikiCite 2016, the one in Vienna, where I think he presented an earlier version of this and an earlier version of Open Knowledge Maps. And you can see we massively benefit from having the pile of data on Wikidata to build these maps from. So that's where we are at the present, and in the future we would really like it if there's more data, if it was better, more comprehensive, and if it was easier to pull out these valuable chunks of it. And I guess maybe even feedback in, right? So those circles could potentially be corpora chunks that you have on Wikidata. And I guess that kind of also sums up how we might be more closely integrated. We'd be happy to have pull requests or input on the structure of data and stuff. Thank you very much for listening to me. Anyone know what they want to ask?
Hi, fantastic work. I am a big champion of more and better discovery tools out there, especially ones built off of open data. One of the things that you may want to consider if you're interested in broadening out beyond the life sciences, I see you have open aerospace, but beyond PubMed, if you want access to the metadata across about over 101 million scholarly research publications, the Crossref Open API it may be very useful. Another thing to add is if you're thinking about additional properties, author names may be a way in to provide an additional dimension to how you're bringing up recommended articles and so forth. And then, digging into the ORCIDs as a natural identifier would be a use then.
Cool. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, we don't currently use the DOI cross-reference things, but that would be a really nice way to go. I think there was a guy up there.
I know this is a work in progress, so don't take this the wrong way.
No.
But when I get a new tool, I try to break it. And so I did a search for the playwright August Wilson, and I got a bunch of stuff about quarks and science words I don't understand. And so I'm wondering, you're using what looks like a keyword search in a linked data set that's very structured, so why not harness that capability and say if your user's looking for August Wilson, give him, match it to the Q number for the playwright, or give him that option, did you mean this, did you mean this? And that way you can get a targeted search and you won't get stuff about quarks. I'm sorry, I haven't been using the microphone.
That's cool, I can hear you fine.
Okay.
That's a really good point. So I guess the nature of the site as it is now is that it isn't linked data, right? You're typing it in, if you're in the Open Knowledge Maps, the front page that jumps up at you, that's into base, which is just a search string going into some, I don't know, Elasticsearch or whatever it happens to be that base runs. So at that point, it isn't really linked. But if we were using Wikidata for building all the maps, then we would be able to have semantically smart, this guy's a playwright, reject all the things about quarks thing going on. But no, that's a really good point.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you.
Hi everyone, so I'm Maxime. I will talk to you about Inverter.io and how we are building something that is pioneering Wikidata-centered open bibliographic data. I actually changed the title, but it's not showing up there. I wanted to say pioneering Wikidata-federated open bibliographic data, because that's very much what we are doing since now a few years. And let's jump in there. So, Inverter.io is a lib open source peer-to-peer library. That is that we allow users to make inventories of their books, physical books, and to tell if they want to give it, share it, sell it to either their friends or groups or maybe neighbors. We are a non-profit general interest collective. We are working at making it an association, non-profit association in France. And our mission is to research on ways to map resources with Loops software and open knowledge. So it's broader than books, but starting with books is great because they are all the people in this room that try to make the data about those resources available. But our dream is really to see that happening on all sorts of resources so that we can start to share them using those open knowledge resources. So, well, that's a screenshot of the homepage. Well, you can see it for yourself. And that's a basic, yeah, if it works. A basic flow in the application, so you can see, okay, what I was explaining on giving, choosing a transaction, choosing possible visibility. And there, so we are on a specific exemplar, seeing the author, the work, and the edition. Yes, we did a distinction. And here, so we are on the edition page, and going back on the work, we see all the people on the right, so who have it in their inventory. Here we see an article from Wikipedia, because we are taking the data from Wikidata, which has a link to Wikipedia and Wikisource that you can see also down there. And here we have the link of the list of editions structured so that we know in different languages the editions. And I think that was it for this one. Yeah. So our primary database is Wikidata, but as you saw earlier, there are only 40,000 books in Wikidata, and we didn't know how much we could just create on the fly, and because people using our application might not know about Wikidata. So we needed to extend it with an internal database to fit our needs. And so to do that, we had to develop an internal editor, and we wanted it also to be ready to be imported in Wikidata for the day when the Wikidata community wants those data and they think it's worth for Wikidata. So it's CC0 and Wikidata ready in the sense that we are reusing Wikidata properties, Wikidata items, and we follow wiki project books and wiki-site recommendations for structuring. Some of you might remember this map that didn't change since last year. Basically, well, the blue buttons, blue things show what you will find in the entities database in Inventaire, and the red is for Wikidata. And so you can see that we are using authors, series, subjects, works from Wikidata, ignoring the editions because it's a mess, and using also items. So items is basically what people have in their inventories. It's exemplar, physical copies of the books. And so you have different level that we all love. And also because book lovers might not be further knowledgeable or not have much knowledge about all those constraints, we hard-coded the constraints in the interface, in the server, to ease editing and contributing to the database. So works and editions are rigorously separated, or works can't have ISBNs, a few constraints like that that makes contributing to our database easier. And so you can see here that, well, I think, yeah, that was a demo of editing a book that is in our database, adding a label in German. So that's a book by Stefan Zweig on Erasmus. And so we are adding a few data. You might recognize data that is existing in Wikidata, so date of publication, and well, that's all properties from Wikidata. Here we are adding a genre, and we are auto-completing with what we know from Wikidata to easily, but restricting to genre so that people can only enter genre and not enter a dog as a genre for a book or something like that. So it's the kind of constraints I meant by when I say we help users to not make mistakes by adding constraints. Yeah, the same year you can't enter anything else than a language for language. And now we are importing it to Wikidata because it was considered, well, as a book of Stefan Zweig, it was considered of the sufficient notability that we could import it to Wikidata. And I'm glad, well, it takes a while for the moment to load, I don't know why, but it lets me time to explain things, so that's nice. And at the end, I think it works. as it happened in the past, so I know it will work at the end. And yay! So now the book is in Wikidata. You can check it up. You have the QID up there. We still have things to figure out. For example, a thing is that importing this way, we don't have a description at the moment. So if you check the current item in Wikidata, it will not have any description. So maybe we should consider auto-generating descriptions for Wikidata before importing or things like that. Also, the edits in the history will be tagged with the inverted.io tag from the OAuth token. But otherwise, we don't have a source, a way to say imported from inverted.io, because the imported from property was changed to imported from Wikimedia project. The label changed, so we can't really use it anymore. Anyway, if you have ideas there, we're interested also. Here it's, I wanted to show a bit about how we help also users to contribute data. This is a series by Fred Vargas, and we offer to add a work to this series. And you can see here that we have pre-filled forms where the author and the series already set, and you just have to enter a title and you create the item already with a few properties. And so it's really much what we will like to explore. It's to be able to have this front-end dedicated to bibliographic data that gives all the help it can to its contributors, because Wikidata can be a bit hard to work with for non-Wikidation. So our position within Wikisite, we are an independent exploration of the scenario free from the roadmap that you might have read before coming. So we are sort of a sister site hosting bibliographic data, extending Wikidata already. We are getting, in doing what we do, we get more and more people to contribute to those common bibliographic database. And that's something we are really proud about. It's that we can really work together to get, on our side we can get book lovers, on your side you can get librarians to contribute to the same data, and we will end up with everybody involved in books just contributing to the same commons of data, and that will be great. So doing so, we are totally open to different forms of collaborating with the evolutions the Wikisite group decided to take. But we have a few knowledge to share on this discussion, because federation is hard. For instance, these are the things that prevent us from moving all our data to a Wikibase already. Like, we would love to do that because there are many features in Wikibase that are great, but as far as I know, it's not possible to reuse out-of-the-box properties from another Wikibase, which is our use case. We don't want to recreate P50 or P133. It's already existing in Wikidata. We want to autocomplete on it already. The same statement linking to another Wikibase instance is not possible at the moment, as far as I know. An easy way to transfer an item from an instance to another one. So sort of what we saw with the move to Wikidata button. And also pre-edit constraints check, because data consistency is really critical to any tool reusing the Wikidata data. And it has blown at our face too many times that people have just changed the P31 of something and then boom, it doesn't work in inventory, and we are already relying on it. And that's terrible. So if the scenario free, if we can have pre-edit constraint check, that will be really great. In the meantime, we are all ready to host those data on bibliographic data in a more comprehensive way than Wikidata. And I invite you for that to check those different addresses. And let's start with this new, if I can get that. Yes, this is the data.inverted.io homepage that you can check to. So that was done first for TPT, that is somewhere around. Like, this is the page for people who don't want to share their books, but want the data. And so if you want just the data, you have here a summary of how to contribute, how to get the API, how to get to the Sparkle endpoint, which is something new. And that's, it's kind of working. We get to give it more run. Dumps and stuff. Okay. There. Okay, the API query. How much time do I have? 0, perfect. Very, very fast. Ordinance to the libraries and bookshops of the world. National libraries, as we heard from the Swedish library, that's great. CC0 data ready for press referencing is great. Local libraries, if we could access the inventory of local libraries through standard HTTP APIs by providing an ISBN or a Wikidata ID, that will be really awesome, because then we could just show you, when you're looking for a given book, you could see if one of your friends has it or if the local library has it, and that will be really cool. Our demands to publishers of the world, CC0 metadata, they are all, it will be just basic thing. And CC, or some Creative Commons license for book covers, because we are tired of playing with fire with fair use. Like, it's not, everyone doesn't have fair use. But we all want the book covers, and it is fair use. We need this fair use. So just create a Creative Commons your book covers. And
So first of all, thank you for doing this, because it's awesome, and I wanted to create it, and apparently already somebody did. So that's great. Thanks. I guess I have, my question is, so this seems to be mostly for books you already own, or that's what it feels like an inventory type thing. Are you thinking about, I don't know, sort of extending it to like being kind of, well, my suggestion is to extend it to being like sort of a review site, kind of like Goodreads is.
Yes.
For people like me that just read library books
Yes.
and don't own them. I don't know.
Yeah, totally. That's we started on the physical owning thing, because that's that was our starting point. But growing as one of the main open source tools on books, we got growing requests, especially from the Mastodon community that get bored of all the proprietary tools, to extend the possibilities of the tool to reviews, and that will come soon-ish.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
One more question, anyone? Oh, sorry. What about language? Is it constrained to only one language like English, or is it?
I don't know. That's where we are. So we have already people coming, jumping, and contributing. Actually, it seems that many visitors come from Bangladesh, because someone came and translated in Bengali. And so that's happening. I don't know. Thank you.
So hello everybody, I'm Ivan. I'm one of the 3 contributors to build Oscar and Lucinda, which are two tools built for the Open Citation project. So I'm a computer scientist. I did my bachelor and master degree in Bologna. Then I started my research fellow with Silvio Peroni, which is one of the directors of the Open Citation project. And right now, this month, I started my PhD studies. So I will basically focus on much more the humanities and social science studies, on something called science of science. So, talking about Open Citation, we are talking about a project which aims on publishing open bibliographic and citation data, which are used through semantic web technologies. So basically, we have 2 main data sets. that are maintained in the open citations. So we have OCC, the Open Citation Corpus, and here we have 300,000 citing bibliographic resources, along with, so we have 14 million citation links for these bibliographic resources. Along with this, we have another dataset called COCI. COCI is a dataset which is built on another data model called a citation. A citation is an entity which takes a DOI and another DOI and build what is called a citation link. So in this case, COCI are taken from Crossref, from DOI to DOI resources from Crossref, and here we have 450 million citation links from 46 million bibliographic resources. So when I first started working with Open Citation, the main problem or the main thing lack was the fact that we did not have any interface to let ordinary web users discover the data that we handle. So we do have like a SPARQL endpoint, but we did not have anything for non-expert semantic web technology users to browse those kind of data. So my main object was building a search and a browsing interface which could be used by those non-expert users, through any SPARQL endpoint. So we wanted to make those tools not only built ad hoc to Open Citation, but also generalized for other systems. So that's why I also built those two tools to work with the Wikidata Triple Store. So now I will just introduce the two tools. So the first one is OSCAR, which stands for the Open Citation RDF Search Application, not in order, but it sounds good. So we first presented OSCAR at the CIV-SD workshop in the web conference, and the main requests we have for this kind of tool, first of all, to have a free text search, so as in common for most of the common web search engines. Then to have an advanced search interface. For an advanced search interface, I mean an interface where we can list a number of queries and connect them through some logical connections. And then after retrieving the results, we would like also to filter those kind of results, or to sort, to do more operation on those results by the simple users, the web users that have made those queries. So as I said before, this tool must be customizable for any other RDF Triple Store which have a SPARQL endpoint. So it is configurable, and it could also be integrated inside a web page as a JavaScript module. So we don't have to integrate this in a server or something. So that's the big part of it. So looking at the workflow, we have a pre-processing of the input given. So we can, for instance, modify the initial input given by the users and then do the SPARQL query. After that, we have some results, and we can post-process these results and add more information, or group them, or do whatever we want. I mean, the things that we have defined at this point. Then, when we build the OSCAR table with all the results, users will have other operations they can do, for instance, filtering and sorting. The other tool is called Lucinda. Lucinda is the browser. So once OSCAR have retrieved some results, we have made some links for these resources which point to their browser through Lucinda. So we can also configure Lucinda to browse the information we want, the properties or the attributes of such resource. And as for Oscar, it is also customizable for any RDF triple store and could be also integrated as a model in for any web page. So we still have a workflow which is a pre-processing phase, a post-processing, and then we have we built Lucinda. In this case, we don't have any operation for the users, so we just show the information. So taking Oscar and Lucinda and configuring them for Wikidata, we chose to take only the scholarly articles. So we have two kind of categories to view, which are articles and authors. And we used the free text and the advanced search. For instance, for getting documents, we would like to retrieve documents that have a specific DOI, a QID, or that are published from a specific journal. Then for authors, we could retrieve authors that have a specific ORCID with a specific QID, occupation, name, or that have contributed to a specific article. So here we have the two links to the demos, which are online right now, so you can use them. I will do like I will not go do a demo right now, but I will show some screens and you can see. So this is for Oscar. So this is an advanced search. What I have done here is asking, give me all the scholarly articles which cite a specific article having this kind of DOI and with a minimum publication year equal 2002. So I click search the Wikidata corpus. These are the results. So this is how it is the interface of Oscar. On the left we have the filters and all the other operation we can do as clients. And on the right we have all the results. So these results are clickable and also all customizable, everything. So for instance, if I click on Silvio Peroni, we have Lucinda, which shows Silvio Peroni, shows the information also we want to show. For instance, here I want to show his ORCID, other occupation, all taken from Wikidata. Along with that, I will call also Oscar and show all the documents that where he have been an author of. So as a conclusion, we present. I have just presented a little Oscar and Lucinda, the search and the browse tool. They are both configurable. Both can be used with any Sparkle endpoint. So hopefully, if you want to use them, just let me know and we'll help you. Thanks.
Wonderful work. Are you guys planning to expand beyond an article?
Beyond?
Yes, say books, other content types.
Oh yeah, of course. The way they are built right now, you have like a one file configuration file. So behind them, there are some Sparkle queries that run. You just have to put the identities you want and the entities you want. Just customize that and you will show whatever you want.
The demo that you gave,
Yeah, exactly.
User interface also works on books currently. Is that what you're
No,
saying?
no,
Okay.
no, not this one.
Okay.
This one just for like scholarly articles with that identity, with that QID.
Next question's here.
But that's how I customize that. So it's like very adaptable the way you want.
I'm wondering what challenges have come up, if any, while you're directly querying the database, and do you have any plans for scaling that up in the future?
Well, the main problem was when I wanted to return some articles having some textual parts, so I have to do like a filter and a regex, and this kind of queries take a lot of time. So it will be, I don't know, for instance, if I combine those things with other, so say, give me all the articles that have a publication year over 2010 with author X and stuff like this, it becomes more limited and maybe faster. But if you go directly with, say, machine learning, typing the word machine learning, it would take a lot of time. So those kind of queries are a bit complicated right now. Thank you.
Thank you to all of our amazing speakers in the tools session. We've finished right on time. I really appreciate them staying on time, and I hope that you all will try some of the tools that they talked about. I don't know about replicating Siobhan's workflow for Wikidata, but I really encourage you to try to link up all the Wikidatas as best as you can. So now we have a half-hour break until session 3, which is going to be about content gaps on Wikipedia and in Wikidata. So feel free to stretch your legs, and let's meet back here at 3 p.m. on the dot. Thanks.
While you're walking out, there are 3 spots available for day 1's lightning talk session still. So if you'd like to give a 3-minute talk, go to the program, check out the Etherpad for the lightning talk session, and add your name. 3 more slots available.
I'm wondering whether there was some consideration in that with how much that factor?
I don't know that I really have the bandwidth to do
Well, maybe you just hit some identifiers.
I mean, it's like this is someone needs a little bit more, you know, that I can talk to. Like, it would be easy to do a batch process.
Right.
Yeah.
Sneak in the Wikidata label. Oh, yeah. So when was that added? Months? That's not recent.
Not just specifically in that month, but just like
So not a long time.
Yeah. If you're talking, like, it makes sense, like, read up on your talking from a lot of people. I'll do that. So on Wikipedia or on Wikisource?
Now, the follow-up question someone had when they said this is great is, what's the prospect of putting in a template instead of just pulling the link to the data?
So we need
You need like an RFC established. Yeah, that's what people ask me, like, can you put a site template instead of just pulling the data Right. Like you need an RFC established as a norm.
Well, no, what happened was when
Oh, I know, it's been drawn back.
So I tried doing that, so I was talking to
Last week, someone from
the guy
as a live link to what do you think it would take on eInvoicing to get it? Would you need a full RFC? Well, people use it. The funny thing, the problem is it's a cold war right now. There's no RFC established. No, you're allowed to use it, but not allowed to bot pads. You're not allowed to do. No, it's not that you can't use it, but it's not established. It's basically multiple by I'm not the reverse Cold War. I didn't know there was a Cold War. I thought we already lost. No, it's Cold War. The other direction Cold War is, have you heard about the controversy of short descriptions?
Oh,
yeah. So what happens, there's a whole bunch of short description templates overriding Wikidata, right? So that's the Cold War. The other direction, I know, it's ridiculous, right? So you have people like try to put Wikidata into English Wikipedia, and then people trying to get Wikidata out of Wikidata. But the norm there is kind of the same norm with Site Q, which is that there's no RFC, but every edition has to be argued on its merits on a case-by-case basis. Right. So that doesn't solve anything. It's actually really ambiguous.
but yeah, those have to be
Basket and Catalan, so they've been leaders in Wikidata integration. They actually they may already have it. Yeah. They may already have it. Like 60% of the bots solved.
Okay.
I have a feeling once it's established in some smaller wikis and you kind of show really cool stats that can run now because of the live links, that industry community might look over the fence and say, we want that.
Okay, but I'll play that.
And they seem to accept the site view thing. Yeah. Right, just yeah, it's Oh, well, thanks for that feedback. Yeah, that should be.